Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the modern world fade away. Can you smell it? The scent of damp earth, ancient moss, and rain-soaked stone. Can you feel it? The cool mist clinging to your skin, rising from ground that has held secrets for millennia. Before Rome marched its legions across the known world, before towering cathedrals pierced the sky, there was an older magic. A magic rooted not in books, but in the rustling of oak leaves and the patterns of the stars. This was the domain of the Celts, and the guardians of their deepest mysteries, the bridge between the mortal realm and the gods, were the Druids. They knew that the world we see is but a shadow. They believed that a thin, shimmering veil is all that separates us from the Otherworld, a place of eternal beauty, terrifying power, and ancient spirits. Tonight, we will walk their forgotten paths. We will part that misty veil. The story of the Druids does not begin in cities or stone halls. It begins in the deep, silent breath of the forest. To the ancient Celts, the world was not a collection of resources, but a living, breathing tapestry of spirits. Every oak, every stream, and every jagged mountain peak held a memory, a name, and a god. The Druids were the ones who could hear these names. They were the philosophers, the judges, and the scientists of the ancient world, but above all, they were the bridge. They were the keepers of the green veil. The word Druid itself most likely derives from the Proto-Celtic words for oak knower. To them, the oak was the king of the forest, a cosmic pillar reaching into the heavens while its roots gripped the secrets of the underworld. In the shadows of these giant trees, the Druids established their first sanctuaries. They did not build temples of gold or marble. They found their temples in the sacred groves, where the sunlight filtered through the leaves like liquid gold. Imagine walking through such a grove 2,000 years ago. The air is thick with the scent of pine and wet earth. There is no sound but the rustle of the wind. You would see white-robed figures moving through the mist, not out of fear, but with a deep, rhythmic purpose. They watched the stars, not just as navigation, but as the clock of the cosmos. They believed that time was not a line leading to an end, but a great, eternal circle. They taught their students in secret, deep within caves or hidden valleys. The training of a Druid could take 20 years. Why so long? Because they were forbidden from writing their sacred teachings down. Everything, the laws, the astronomy, the thousands of lines of epic poetry, had to be committed to memory. They believed that the written word made the mind lazy and stripped the soul of its wisdom. To be a Druid was to be a living library of a civilization. But their power was not just in their knowledge. It was in their connection to the elements. They were said to be able to call forth mists to hide an army, to speak to the birds to learn of distant wars, and to heal wounds with herbs gathered under the specific alignment of the moon. They understood the Ogham, the secret alphabet of trees, where every letter was a branch and every word was a forest. As the sun dips below the horizon in our story, we must look at the most sacred of their rituals, the gathering of the mistletoe. On the 6th day of the moon, a Druid clad in white would climb a sacred oak to cut the golden mistletoe with a golden sickle. This was not a mere plant. It was the all-heal, a symbol of the sun's power surviving the winter. It was a promise that life would return, that the circle would never break. The Druids were not only masters of the forest, but also masters of time and law. In the heart of their society, they functioned as the supreme judges. If there was a dispute over land or a crime committed between tribes, it was the Druid who sat in the center of the circle. Their word was absolute. To disobey a Druid was to be excommunicated, a fate worse than death, as it meant being cut off from the gods and the community alike. But what did they believe about the soul? This is where the Celtic faith becomes truly mesmerizing. Unlike many other ancient cultures, the Celts did not fear death. The Druids taught the doctrine of transmigration, the belief that the soul does not perish but passes from one body to another in a continuous cycle of existence. For them, death was merely a change of place, a transition to the Otherworld before returning once more. This belief gave the Celtic warriors an almost terrifying bravery in battle. They marched forward with songs and laughter, convinced that if they fell, they would simply wake up in a different, perhaps more beautiful realm. As the night deepens in our journey, we must also speak of the stars. The Druids were master astronomers. They possessed a lunar solar calendar, known to us now as the Coligny calendar, which was more accurate than the Roman one used for centuries. They calculated the movements of the planets and the cycles of the sun with such precision that they could predict eclipses and the best times for planting and harvest. To the common folk, this was magic. To the Druid, it was simply understanding the great architecture of the divine. They saw the stars not as distant fires, but as the eyes of the ancestors watching over the sacred groves. Every ritual, every gathering, was timed to the pulse of the universe. When the moon was full and the shadows grew long, they would gather to discuss the nature of the gods and the immense power of the immortal soul. They were the keepers of the light in a world of mystery. But as we move forward into the mist, we must prepare ourselves. For the Druid's path leads to a place where the physical world ends and the realm of the spirits begins. We are approaching the veil, but the world of the Druid was not a monolith. Within their sacred order, there was a sophisticated hierarchy, a triple division of wisdom that ensured the survival of their culture for centuries. At the base of this pyramid were the bards. These were the keepers of the songs, the masters of the harp, and the weavers of the oral history. A bard's memory was a fortress. They held thousands of verses, genealogies, and legends within their minds. They were the ones who ensured that the names of the heroes and the deeds of the kings were never forgotten by the passage of time. In the Celtic world, a song was more than entertainment. It was a vessel of immortality. To be praised by a bard was the highest honor. To be cursed by one was a social death sentence. Above the bards stood the Ovates, or the Vates. These were the seers, the healers, and the diviners. While the bards looked backward to the past, the Ovates looked inward and forward. They studied the mysteries of medicine, the properties of every root and herb, and the hidden rhythms of the natural world. They were the ones who could interpret the flight of birds or the patterns in the clouds to catch a glimpse of the future. They lived in a constant state of observation, believing that the gods were always speaking, if only one knew how to listen to the whisper of the wind or the ripple in a sacred well. And at the summit were the Druids themselves, the philosophers, the judges, and the spiritual leaders. They oversaw the entire system, ensuring that the ancient laws were upheld and that the balance between the human world and the divine remained undisturbed. They were the architects of the Celtic soul. Their power was so deeply respected that they were the only ones who could travel freely between warring tribes. In a landscape often fractured by conflict, the Druids provided a common language and a common faith. They were the invisible thread that sewed the Celtic nations together. Central to their philosophy was the concept of the three realms: the land, the sea, and the sky. For the Druid, the universe was not a chaotic void, but a perfectly balanced structure. The land provided the physical body and the foundation of life. The sea was the realm of deep mystery, the gateway to the otherworld, and the source of all hidden knowledge. The sky was the dwelling of the sun, the moon, and the stars, the celestial fires that dictated the passage of time. To live a good life was to remain in harmony with all three. They saw the human spirit as a reflection of this cosmic balance. This harmony was enforced through the Brehon laws, an ancient and complex legal system that the Druids administered. These laws were remarkably advanced for their time, focusing not on punishment, but on restitution and balance. If a wrong was committed, the Druid judge would determine a fair compensation to restore the peace. They protected the rights of the trees, the animals, and the vulnerable members of society. In the eyes of a Druid, everything had a price because everything had a value. Justice was not about anger. It was about returning the world to its natural, steady state. As we linger in these ancient groves, we must also recognize the sacredness of the trees that stood as silent witnesses to these laws. While the oak was the king, there were others. The rowan, with its bright red berries, was a protector against dark spirits. The hazel was the tree of wisdom, its nuts said to contain all the knowledge of the universe. The yew was the guardian of the graveyard, a symbol of eternal life and the bridge to the ancestors. Each tree was a person, a spirit, and a teacher. To walk through a forest was, for a Druid, to walk through a crowded room of elders, each one with a story to tell if you were patient enough to wait for the silence. Beyond the hierarchy of men, the Druids maintained a deeper, more profound connection with the very fabric of the landscape through a secret language known as the Ogham. This was not a language spoken with the tongue, but a language read in the notches of stones and the branches of trees. Each letter of the Ogham was named after a specific tree, and each tree held a unique spiritual resonance. The first letter, Faith, was the birch, the tree of beginnings and purification, the first to colonize the barren lands after the Great Ice. To meditate on the birch was to invite a fresh start into one's soul. Then came Luis, the rowan, the tree of protection whose bright red berries were seen as droplets of dragon's blood, capable of warding off the shadows of the night. Fern, the alder, was the guardian of the water's edge, its wood resistant to rot, symbolizing the strength to remain upright even when submerged in the currents of emotion. To the Druid, the Ogham was a cosmic code. They believed that by arranging these symbols, they could tap into the primal energies of the earth itself, weaving spells not with magic wands, but with the raw intent of the natural world. This was the tree alphabet, a system where every word was a forest and every sentence was a journey through the wild. This intimate knowledge extended to the sacred waters of the Celtic lands. For a Druid, a spring or a well was not just a source of hydration. It was an eye of the earth looking up at the sky. They believed that deep beneath the ground lay the great well of wisdom, where the hazel nuts of knowledge fell into the water to be eaten by the salmon of wisdom. Every stream that flowed from the mountains was a vein of the divine, carrying the whispers of the ancestors to the sea. They guarded the sacred wells with fierce devotion, decorating them with ribbons and offerings of silver. These were the thin places, locations where the boundary between the physical world and the otherworld was so translucent that a person could hear the music of the spirits if they knelt long enough in the silence. The Druid knew that water held memory. They taught that the rains of today were the same rains that fell on the first kings, and by touching the river, one was touching the entirety of time. They performed their most sacred ablutions at dawn, when the first light of the sun hit the surface of the water, believing this to be the exact moment when the soul could be most easily purified. Central to their communal life was the Wheel of the Year, the 4 great fire festivals that marked the heartbeat of the cosmos. The year did not begin in the spring, but in the dark of autumn, at the festival of Samhain. This was the time when the harvest was gathered, the cattle were brought down from the hills, and the veil between the living and the dead was at its thinnest. The Druids would extinguish all the fires in the village, plunging the world into a primordial darkness to represent the end of the cycle. Then, using a friction drill on a piece of sacred oak, they would kindle a need fire. From this single, pure flame, every hearth in the community was relit, symbolizing the rebirth of hope in the face of the coming winter. They believed that on this night, the ancestors returned to sit by the fire, and the Druids acted as the hosts, ensuring that the spirits were honored and the living were protected from the more mischievous entities that crept through the frost. As the winter deepened, they looked toward Imbolc, the festival of the first milk and the waking of the earth. This was the domain of the goddess Brigid, the patron of poetry, healing, and the forge. The Druids would watch for the first signs of the snowdrop, the white flower that heralded the return of the light. It was a time of purification, of sweeping away the old embers of the previous year to make room for the new growth. They saw the earth as a mother beginning to stir in her sleep, and their rituals were designed to gently wake her without disturbing the delicate balance of the frost. They understood that the transition from dark to light required patience and a steady hand. They taught the people that just as the seed must wait in the dark earth before it can reach for the sun, so must the human soul endure the winters of life to gain the strength for the coming spring. The training of a Druid was perhaps the most rigorous intellectual journey of the ancient world. A young initiate, often chosen for their keen memory or their sensitivity to the unseen, would be taken from their family and brought to the hidden sanctuaries. For 20 years, they lived in a world of pure sound and memory. They were forbidden from writing a single word of their teachings. They spent their days memorizing the 350 complex tales of the Celtic canon, the thousands of legal precedents of the Brehon laws, and the intricate movements of the lunar and solar cycles. They slept in darkness, often with a stone on their chest, to facilitate the deep, lucid dreaming required for their spiritual work. They were taught to see in the dark, to hear the growth of the grass, and to still their minds until they became as quiet as a mountain lake. By the end of their training, the initiate had ceased to be an individual. They had become a vessel for the entire collective wisdom of their people. They were a living bridge between the past and the future, a repository of 1,000 years of human experience. This absolute reliance on memory was a deliberate choice. The Druids believed that the written word was a trap, a cold, dead thing that allowed the mind to become lazy. They argued that wisdom must be felt, it must be sung, and it must be carried in the blood. If a law was written on a stone, it became rigid and brittle. If it was carried in the heart of a Druid, it remained a living, breathing thing that could adapt to the nuances of human life. This oral tradition was the heartbeat of the Celtic world. It ensured that knowledge was only passed to those who were worthy of it, those who had the discipline to hold it and the character to use it wisely. In the eyes of the Druid, the mind was a sacred grove, and every piece of knowledge was a tree that had to be carefully planted and tended over a lifetime. As we conclude this exploration of the root and the stone, we see a society that was not primitive, but profoundly sophisticated in its understanding of the human condition. They did not seek to conquer nature, but to participate in it. They did not fear the unknown, but sought to map its rhythms through the stars and the seasons. They were the masters of the perceptual shift, the ability to see the divine in the mundane and the eternal in the temporary. They stood at the center of the Celtic world like the massive oaks they worshipped, deeply rooted in the earth, yet always reaching for the celestial lights. They were the ones who knew that the true history of a people is not written in blood or gold, but in the stories told around the fire and the silent wisdom held within the ancient moss. We have walked the land and the sea. Now, the mist begins to rise, and the path leads us toward the shimmering curtain of the Otherworld. The first part of our journey is complete, but the veil is about to part. The Druids did not only exist within the boundaries of the physical forest. They were the architects of a sacred geography that mapped the entire Celtic landscape. To them, the earth was etched with invisible lines of power, currents of energy that flowed between the high mountain peaks and the deep, lightless valleys. They marked these nodes of power with massive standing stones, megaliths that functioned as needles of stone, pinning the sky to the earth. These stone circles were not merely places of worship. They were celestial observatories and resonators of the divine. The Druids understood the resonance of stone. They knew that a certain arrangement of granite or limestone could amplify the natural vibrations of the ground, creating a space where the veil was permanently thin. In these circles, time behaved differently. An hour spent in meditation within the ring of stones could feel like a lifetime or a mere heartbeat. They taught that the stones were the bones of the earth, the oldest ancestors who had witnessed the birth of the stars and would remain long after the last oak had fallen to dust. In the social fabric of the tribes, the Druids held a power that often eclipsed that of the chieftains and kings. This was manifested through the concept of the geis, a sacred vow or a spiritual taboo placed upon an individual, especially those of high rank. A geis was not a law of man, but a law of the soul. A king might be forbidden from ever turning his back on a sunset, or from eating the meat of a certain animal, or from sleeping in a house where the fire had been extinguished. To break a geis was to invite immediate spiritual decay. It was to lose the truth of the king, the divine favor that kept the land fertile and the people safe. The Druid was the weaver of these taboos. They could see the specific spiritual vulnerabilities of a leader and would craft a geis to protect their integrity or to test their worthiness. This created a society where leadership was not a matter of raw strength, but of spiritual discipline. The king reigned, but the Druid ruled the reality in which the king existed. Beyond the high-ranking Druids were the specialized healers, the physicians of the ancient world who combined deep botanical knowledge with a profound understanding of the human psyche. They did not see a wound or a fever as a mechanical failure of the body, but as a disruption in the flow of the spirit. They practiced the healing sleep, where a patient would be brought to a sacred spring or a lightless cave and placed into a trance through the rhythmic chanting of the Druid and the administration of herbal infusions. In this state, the patient was said to travel to the Otherworld to meet with the spirits of healing, returning only when the internal balance had been restored. They understood the power of suggestion and the potency of the mind. They knew that a person's belief in their recovery was the most powerful medicine in the forest. Their pharmacopoeia was vast, including the bark of the willow for pain, the leaves of the foxglove for the heart, and the resin of the pine for the lungs. Every remedy was gathered with a prayer, and every draft was administered with a blessing, for they believed that the spirit of the plant had to give its permission to heal the spirit of the man. Equally feared and respected were the satirists, a specific branch of the bardic order who wielded the power of the word as a weapon. In the Celtic world, a well-crafted satire was more than an insult. It was a curse that could cause physical boils to erupt on the skin of the victim or lead to the literal wasting away of their luck. The Druids believed that the vibration of certain words, when spoken with the correct intent and rhythm, could reshape the physical world. If a king was greedy or unjust, a satirist would stand before his hall and recite a glamdyson, a piercing, rhythmic poem that stripped away the king's dignity and exposed his soul to the judgment of the elements. This kept the powerful in check. It was a world where the poet was the ultimate auditor of the soul, and the fear of a bad song was often more effective than the fear of 1,000 swords. We must also touch upon the darker, more misunderstood aspects of their practice, the concept of the great sacrifice. For centuries, rumors have persisted of the Wicker Man and the blood spilled on the stone altars. To the Druid, sacrifice was not an act of cruelty, but a desperate and profound negotiation with the forces of nature. They believed in the law of equivalence, that for a great favor to be granted by the gods, something of equal value had to be returned. In times of catastrophic plague or endless winter, they believed the balance of the world had been so severely tilted that only the ultimate offering could right it. They saw life as a currency of the divine. However, most modern scholars believe these accounts were often exaggerated by Roman chroniclers to justify their conquest. To the Druids themselves, the greatest sacrifice was often internal, the sacrifice of one's ego, one's comfort, and one's very identity through 20 years of lightless study and isolation. They taught that to truly serve the light, one had to be willing to walk through the deepest darkness. As the Roman shadow began to stretch across the continent, the Druids became the soul of the resistance. They were the ones who moved between the tribes, whispering of unity and the preservation of the old ways. They knew that the Roman way, with its written laws, its stone cities, and its singular focus on conquest, was the antithesis of the Celtic spirit. They saw the Roman roads as scars on the body of the earth, and the Roman temples as cages for the gods. The conflict was not just over land, but over the very nature of reality. The Romans sought to dominate the world. The Druids sought to listen to it. In the final stands on the islands of Britain and Gaul, the Druids stood on the shorelines, their arms raised to the sky, calling down the mists and the storms to protect their sacred groves. They were the final guardians of a world that was being slowly overwritten by the ink of a new empire. But even as their physical power began to wane, their spiritual legacy remained untouched. They had spent millennia planting the seeds of their wisdom into the very soil, the water, and the stories of the people. They knew that empires rise and fall like the leaves of the oak, but the root remains. They taught that the true Druid's path is not found in a specific place or a specific time, but in the eternal present of the natural world. Every time a person stops to listen to the wind in the trees, or feels the pull of the moon on the tides, or recognizes the sacredness in the smallest flower, they are walking the path. The root is deep, the stone is ancient, and the journey is only just beginning. We have explored the foundations of their world. Now, the air grows cold and the colors of the forest begin to shift. The elements are calling, and we must learn their language. The transition is near. The Druids believed in a concept known as On, the flowing spirit of divine inspiration. To them, On was not something you created, but something you became a vessel for. It was the spark that jumped between the stars, the energy that forced the bud to break the branch, and the fire that ignited the mind of the poet. They spent years in the darkness of the cell, a practice where an initiate would lie in a lightless hut with a heavy stone on their abdomen, focusing entirely on their breath until the physical body seemed to dissolve. In this state of sensory deprivation, the On would begin to flow. They would see visions of the past and the future, hear the music of the spheres, and understand the intricate connections between all living things. This was the birth of the radiant brow, the moment when the Druid truly became an oak knower. They realized that the entire universe was a single, vast poem being recited by the divine, and their role was simply to remember the verses. This understanding of the breath of the world allowed them to perceive the Nwaifer, the life force that permeates all matter. They taught that everything, from the lowliest pebble to the highest star, was alive and conscious in its own way. The Nwaifer was the invisible thread that connected the hunter to the deer, the rain to the river, and the ancestor to the descendant. By mastering their own Nwaifer through breath and meditation, the Druids could influence the world around them. This was the source of their weatherworking and their shape-shifting, not a violation of natural law, but a deep, sympathetic resonance with the spirit of the element. If they wanted to call the rain, they did not command the clouds. They became the moisture, they felt the thirst of the earth, and they invited the water to fall. It was a magic of relationship, not of ego. As part 1 draws to its conclusion, we see the Druid not as a wizard of myth, but as a deeply attuned human being who refused to let the noise of the world drown out the song of the earth. They stood at the crossroads of the seen and the unseen, holding the balance with a steady hand. The forest was their home, the stars were their map, and the soul was their laboratory. They have shown us the root, the deep, ancestral connections that sustain us. They have shown us the stone, the enduring truths that remain unchanged by time. Now, the wind is picking up, carrying the scent of salt and distant realms. The part of the root in the stone is complete. We stand at the edge of the grove, looking out toward the horizon where the elements meet. Sits in the head, upside down at birth. It is only through sorrow, joy, and intense spiritual discipline that this cauldron can be turned upright to catch the falling drops of On, the divine inspiration. The Druid's entire life was a dedication to turning this final cauldron, to becoming a vessel capable of holding the mysteries of the universe without breaking. They taught that wisdom was not something you grasped, but something you received when you were finally still enough to hold it. So we stand at the end of the beginning. We have seen how the Druid is rooted in the earth like the mighty oak, drawing strength from the deep ancestry of the land. We have seen how their laws and philosophy are as enduring as the standing stones that mark the landscape, pinning the sky to the earth. They were the masters of the physical realm because they understood its spiritual counterpart. They knew that to touch a stone was to touch history, and to plant a seed was to invest in the future. But knowing the root is only half the journey. To walk the full path, one must also learn to speak to the wind, to listen to the fire, and to flow with the water. The foundation is laid. The grove is silent, waiting. The green veil is thick around us, but soon we will learn the words to make it shimmer and part. The root and the stone are firm beneath our feet. Now we look upward to the elements. Having walked the land of the roots and the stones, we now raise our gaze to the unseen currents that weave through the world. The Druid knew that the physical was but a shell for the spiritual, and the spiritual was most alive in the four great elements: air, fire, water, and earth. To the master of the green veil, these were not merely substances, but the primary languages of the divine. In this second part of our journey, we step away from the solid oak and the silent megalith to listen to the whispering elements. We enter a world where the wind carries memories of the future, where the fire cleanses the soul of its shadows, and where the water remembers every face it has ever reflected. This is the realm of the invisible, the domain of the breath and the flame. We begin with the air, the most subtle and elusive of the elements. To the Druid, the air was the Nwaifer, the life breath of the universe. It was the medium through which the spirits traveled and the vehicle for the divine inspiration of On. They believed that the wind was the breath of the Sidhi, the people of the mounds, whispering secrets to those who knew how to still their own minds. Mastery of the air was the hallmark of the most powerful Druids. They practiced a magic known as Feth Fiata, the power to call forth a magical mist that could hide a person or an entire army from mortal eyes. This was not a cloud of smoke, but a bending of the light, a folding of the air itself. To step into the Druids' mist was to step out of time, to become invisible to the world of men while remaining fully present in the world of spirit. They taught that to speak to the wind, one must first learn to be silent like the air. They would stand on the highest coastal cliffs, where the salt spray met the mountain gales, and practice the listening of the four directions. They believed that each wind had a distinct personality. The north wind brought the cold clarity of the ancestors and the wisdom of the old ones. The south wind carried the warmth of growth and the fire of passion. The east wind brought the dawn of new ideas and the sharpness of the intellect. And the west wind, the most sacred of all, came from the direction of the setting sun, carrying the songs of the Otherworld and the promise of eternal life. The Druid did not see the wind as an obstacle, they saw it as a conversation. By observing the way the birds flew or the way the leaves turned their backs to a storm, they could read the impending changes of the world as clearly as if they were written in a book. Central to their air mastery was the language of the birds. In Celtic lore, birds were seen as the messengers between the realms, the only creatures capable of traversing the land, the sea, and the sky. The Druid would spend years observing the patterns of flight and the specific pitches of bird calls. They believed that the raven held the secrets of battle and fate, the swan carried the grace of the soul's journey, and the wren, the king of the birds, held the spark of the divine hidden in the smallest form. To understand the birds was to understand the divine will. It was said that a true Druid could stand in a storm and hear the specific warnings of the hawks as they circled above, translating the screams of the predators into the poetry of prophecy. From the shifting air, we turn our attention to the fire, the element of transformation and the heart of the community. To the Druid, fire was the earthly representative of the sun, a piece of the celestial fire brought down to dwell among men. They did not see fire as a destructive force, but as a purifying one. This was most evident during the great festival of Beltane, the bright fire, which marked the beginning of the light half of the year. On this sacred day, all fires in the land were extinguished. The Druids would gather on a high hill and, using the ancient method of friction, kindle the white fire. This was a fire born of pure movement and intent, untouched by previous flames. The cattle would be driven between two great bonfires to purify them of the winter sickness, and the people would jump over the embers to invite fertility and protection into their lives. They believed that the fire consumed the stagnation of the past, leaving only the pure essence of the spirit behind. But the Druid also spoke of the internal fire, the flame that burned within the soul. They taught that every human being has a sun within their chest, and the goal of the spiritual path was to keep this fire burning bright and clear. If the fire grew too hot, it became anger and destruction. If it grew too cold, it became despair and lethality. The Druid's role was to be the tinder of this inner hearth, using the bellows of the breath and the fuel of wisdom to maintain a steady, glowing light that could illuminate even the darkest forest. Central to their air mastery was the language of the birds. In Celtic lore, birds were seen as the messengers between the realms, the only creatures capable of traversing the land, the sea, and the sky. The Druid would spend years observing the patterns of flight and the specific pitches of bird calls. They believed that the raven held the secrets of battle and fate, the swan carried the grace of the soul's journey, and the wren, the king of the birds, held the spark of the divine hidden in the smallest form. To understand the birds was to understand the divine will. It was said that a true druid could stand in a storm and hear the specific warnings of the hawks as they circled above, translating the screams of the predators into the poetry of prophecy. From the shifting air, we turn our attention to the fire, the element of transformation and the heart of the community. To the druid, fire was the earthly representative of the sun, a piece of the celestial fire brought down to dwell among men. They did not see fire as a destructive force, but as a purifying one. This was most evident during the great festival of Beltane, the bright fire, which marked the beginning of the light half of the year. On this sacred day, all fires in the land were extinguished. The Druids would gather on a high hill and, using the ancient method of friction, kindled the white fire. This was a fire born of pure movement and intent, untouched by previous flames. The cattle would be driven between two great bonfires to purify them of the winter's sickness, and the people would jump over the embers to invite fertility and protection into their lives. They believed that the fire consumed the stagnation of the past, leaving only the pure essence of the spirit behind. But the Druid also spoke of the internal fire, the flame that burned within the soul. They taught that every human being has a sun within their chest, and the goal of the spiritual path was to keep this fire burning bright and clear. If the fire grew too hot, it became anger and destruction. If it grew too cold, it became despair and lethality. The Druid's role was to be the tinder of this inner hearth, using the bellows of the breath and the fuel of wisdom to maintain a steady, glowing light that could illuminate even the darkest forest. The mastery of fire also extended to the three illuminations, the methods by which a Druid could gain sudden, explosive insight. The first was Imba's Forest Nigh, the great light of knowledge, often achieved through sensory deprivation and ritual incubation. The second was Team Lida, the breaking of the marrow, a method of solving riddles through rhythmic chanting and the heat of the mind. And the third was Daikido Du Chenuib, the incantation from the fingertips, where the Druid's energy was so focused that they could perceive the truth of an object simply by being near it. These were the fires of the intellect, the sparks that flew when the human mind rubbed against the divine reality. They believed that truth was not something you found, but something you ignited. From the heat of the flame, we move to the cooling embrace of the water, the element of memory and the gateway to the deep. In the Celtic world, every river was a goddess, and every well was a shrine. They believed that water was the most ancient of the elements, the one that held the memories of the world's birth. To the Druid, a spring was a thin place, a location where the waters of the Otherworld bubbled up into the physical realm. They guarded these sacred wells with fierce devotion, believing that to pollute a spring was to blind an eye of the earth. They practiced hydromancy, the art of reading the ripples on the surface of a pool to see the reflections of distant events. They taught that if you sat by a sacred well at dawn and watched the way the light hit the rising bubbles, you could see the faces of your ancestors or the shadows of your own future. Water was also the primary tool for healing and purification. The Druid physicians knew the speech of the water. They believed that different springs had different personalities and healing properties. A well that flowed to the east was good for the eyes. A well that sat under a sacred hazel tree was good for the mind. They would perform the 9 waves ritual, where a person seeking purification would be immersed in the sea 9 times, once for each of the 9 daughters of the sea god Manannan Maclyre. They believed that the salt of the ocean could strip away the heavy energy of grief and trauma, leaving the soul as clear as a polished shell. To the Druid, the sea was not a barrier, but a vast, blue highway leading to the lands of the young. They saw the tides as the breathing of the world, a rhythmic reminder that everything that goes out must eventually return. Finally, we return to the earth, not as the solid root we explored before, but as a living, pulsating body of energy. The Druids believed in Nyfer, the life force that flowed through the veins of the earth like blood. They mapped the ley lines, the paths of the dragon, where the earth's energy was most concentrated. They built their stone circles and their sacred mounds at the intersections of these lines, acting as acupuncture needles for the planet. They believed that by standing on these nodes, a person could recharge their own spiritual energy, drawing the raw power of the mountain into their feet. They saw the mountains as the elders of the world, the silent watchers who held the weight of the sky. To climb a mountain was a ritual of ascension, a way to leave the trivialities of the valley behind and approach the clarity of the gods. The mastery of the earth also involved the stone singing. They believed that every stone had a note, a specific vibration that it held since the dawn of time. By chanting at the correct frequency, the Druid could wake the stone, causing it to resonate with the surrounding landscape. This was how they tuned their stone circles to the movements of the stars. They did not see a rock as a dead thing, but as a very slow, very patient being. They taught that if you placed your ear against a megalith on a cold night, you could hear the earth dreaming. They saw the soil as the great stomach of the world, where death was transformed back into life. They taught the people to walk softly upon the earth, for they were walking on the faces of their grandchildren. To the Druid, the earth was not something we own, but something we are a part of, a temporary loan of dust that we must eventually return with interest. These four elements, air, fire, water, and earth, were not separate in the Druid's mind. They were a single, rotating wheel. They saw the fire in the sun, the air in the wind, the water in the rain, and the earth in the grain. To be a master of the elements was to be a master of the great weaving. They understood that if you pull a thread in the element of air, the element of water will feel the vibration. They taught the law of interconnectedness, that every thought we have sends a ripple through the Nyfer, affecting the growth of the trees and the movement of the tides. They were the original ecologists, the guardians of the balance. They knew that when the elements are in harmony, the land is fertile and the people are at peace. But when the elements are ignored or insulted, the world falls into chaos. As we conclude this exploration of the whispering elements, we begin to see that the Druids' magic was not about performing tricks, but about achieving a deep, resonant alignment with the natural world. They did not seek to dominate the wind. They sought to become the wind. They did not seek to command the fire. They sought to burn with it. They were the ones who stood at the center of the elements, the still point in a turning world. They have shown us how to listen, how to burn, how to flow, and how to stand firm. The elements have spoken, and their whispers have become a song. But the song is leading us further. It is leading us away from the familiar sights and sounds of the forest toward the shimmering edge of reality. The veil is beginning to glow. The elements are preparing us for the crossing. We are ready to step beyond. Moving forward, we must look at how the Druids used these elements to map the cosmos. This section focuses on the astronomy of the soul and the celestial fire. The Druids were not only earthbound, they were the wanderers of the stars. They saw the night sky as a great, glowing map of the ancestral realm. To them, the stars were the campfires of the gods, and the Milky Way was the path of the white cow, the road that souls traveled to reach the Otherworld. They possessed a sophisticated understanding of the precession of the equinoxes and the complex cycles of the moon. Their calendars, such as the famous Coligny plate, were masterworks of mathematics and observation, tracking a 5-year cycle that harmonized the lunar months with the solar year. They believed that what happened in the heavens was mirrored in the depths of the earth. If a new star appeared, they looked for a new king to be born. If the moon went into eclipse, they prepared for a period of collective shadow and reflection. They taught that every human being is born under a heavenly breath, a specific alignment of the stars that colors their destiny. This was not the rigid astrology of later ages, but a fluid understanding of cosmic influence. They saw the planets as great spirits moving through the halls of the sky. Jupiter was the king, the bringer of order and law. Mars was the warrior, the spark of courage and conflict. Venus was the lover, the weaver of harmony and beauty. The Druids' role was to help the individual align their own internal elements with these celestial giants. They believed that if a person could find the star within their soul, they would never be lost, no matter how dark the forest of life became. They performed their most secret rituals during the great alignments, the solstices and the equinoxes. During the winter solstice, the Yule of the ancient world, they would gather in lightless chambers like Newgrange, waiting for the exact moment when the rising sun would send a single, golden shaft of light down the long stone passage to illuminate the inner sanctum. This was the marriage of earth and sky, the moment when the celestial fire impregnated the earth with the promise of a new year. They believed that in that moment of perfect alignment, the veil between the worlds was not just thin, it was gone. The ancestors walked among the living, and the future was as clear as a mountain stream. It was a time of profound stillness, a moment when the entire universe held its breath. As we delve deeper into their celestial magic, we must also explore the alphabet of the stars, a higher form of the Ogham that was said to be written in the patterns of the Takimildisler constellations. They saw the Great Bear as the cauldron of the north, the source of all life. They saw Orion as the hunter of the spirit, chasing the shadows across the cosmic forest. To a Druid, to look at the night sky was to read the sacred history of the universe. They taught their students to memorize the position of every star, for they believed that the stars were the eyes of the infinite, always watching, always judging, and always guiding. They knew that even in the deepest night, we are never truly alone. The celestial fire is always burning, a reminder that we are made of the same light as the gods. Beyond the stars, the Druids mastered the alchemy of the cauldron. This was the practice of combining the elements within a physical and spiritual vessel to produce a transformation of the soul. The cauldron was the most sacred object in the Druidic tradition, representing the womb of the goddess and the source of all inspiration. There were 3 great cauldrons: the cauldron of abundance, which never ran dry; the cauldron of testing, which could distinguish the brave from the cowardly; and the cauldron of resurrection, which could bring the fallen back to life. In their rituals, they would gather herbs from the 4 corners of the land: valerian from the mountains, meadowsweet from the valleys, seaweed from the coast, and oak moss from the deep forest. These would be placed into a bronze cauldron filled with water from a sacred spring. A fire of 9 sacred woods: oak, hazel, rowan, ash, yew, willow, hawthorn, pine, and birch would be kindled beneath it. As the water began to simmer, the Druid would stir it with a branch of the rowan, chanting this song of the 9 elements. They believed that the steam rising from the cauldron was the breath of On, and by inhaling it, they could gain the second sight. This was not a physical drug, but a ritualized focus, a way to harmonize the internal elements of the body with the external elements of the nature. They taught that the human body is itself a cauldron. Our breath is the air, Our blood is the water, our bones are the earth, and our spirit is the fire. If the fire is too low, we become sluggish and dull. If the water is stagnant, we become heavy with sorrow. The goal of the Druidic life was to keep the internal cauldron simmering at the perfect temperature, where the elements worked together to produce the steam of wisdom. They practiced the brewing of the soul, a lifelong process of refining one's character through the heat of experience and the cooling of reflection. They believed that every challenge we face is an ingredient added to our cauldron, and our task is to make sure the final brew is sweet and potent. This elemental alchemy was the foundation of their shape-shifting lore. In the stories of Taliesin and Ceridwen, we hear of the initiate changing into a grain of wheat, a bird, a fish, and a greyhound. To the literal mind, these are mere fables. To the Druid, these were states of resonance. They believed that because we are made of the four elements, we contain the potential of all living things. By shifting their internal resonance, a Druid could feel like a stag, understanding the rhythm of the forest floor, or feel like a salmon, understanding the pull of the deep currents. This was not a physical transformation, but a total expansion of empathy, a way to step out of the narrow cage of the human ego and into the vast, wild intelligence of the world. It was the ultimate expression of their belief that everything is connected. As we walk further down the Druids' path, we encounter the whispering stones of divination. While the megaliths were the anchors of the world, the Druids also used smaller, portable stones for personal guidance. They would gather white quartz pebbles from the beds of mountain streams, believing these stones to be frozen moonlight. These pebbles would be marked with Ogham characters and cast upon a white cloth. The way the stones fell, and the way the light of the sun or the moon hit their facets, would reveal the flow of the Nwaifer. This was not about predicting a fixed future, but about understanding the current momentum of the spirit. They taught that the future is like a river. It has a direction, but it can be changed by the placing of a single stone. The Druids' role was to help the seeker see where their river was flowing and to suggest the small changes that could lead to a more harmonious outcome. They did not believe in fate as a prison, but as a pattern that we choose to weave. By reading the stones, they were reading the hidden geometry of the soul. They would look for the gaps in the pattern, the moments of choice where a person could step off their habitual path and into a new reality. They believed that every moment is a crossroads, and every breath is a chance to start the world anew. The elements are not just around us. They are the tools we use to carve our own destiny out of the raw stone of time. The air is thinning now, and the forest is beginning to glow with a strange, bioluminescent light. We have learned to listen to the wind, to tend the inner fire, to flow with the sacred wells, and to stand with the earth. We have mapped the stars and brewed the cauldron of our own souls. But the whispering elements are telling us one final thing. They are telling us that we cannot stay in the forest forever. To truly understand the path, we must go where the elements themselves begin, to the source of the mist, the heart of the light, and the silence of the deep. We are approaching the edge of the world. The green veil is no longer a wall. It is a shimmering curtain, and it is beginning to part. The Ogham was more than just a writing system or a list of trees. It was a vibrational key. The Druids taught that each of the 20 original letters was a specific frequency of the Nwaifer. When a Druid chanted the letter Dur, Og, they were not just saying a name. They were vibrating the essence of strength, stability, and protection. They used these sounds to sing the world into being. In their morning rituals, they would stand at the edge of the forest and chant the Ogham alphabet in a specific sequence, believing that this would harmonize the local spirits and ensure the balance of the day. They taught that words have weight and sound has power. A curse spoken in Ogham could wither a branch. A blessing could make a barren tree bear fruit. They practiced the weaving of the three strands, the three types of magical songs that every Druid bard had to master. The first was the Giantri, the strain of joy, which could make an entire hall laugh and forget their sorrows. The second was the Galtri, the strain of sorrow, which could make the strongest warrior weep for the beauty and tragedy of life. And the third, the most sacred, was the Suintri, the strain of sleep. This was the music of the Otherworld, a melody so slow and so deep that it could lull a person into a profound, healing trance. It was said that the Suintri was the sound the stars made as they moved through the sky. By singing this strain, the Druid could help the soul detach from the burdens of the body and travel safely through the dream realms. This is the music we are listening to now, the undercurrent of our journey. As the sun begins to set in this second part of our story, we witness the ritual of the shimmering water. The Druids believed that at dusk, the water of a still lake becomes a literal mirror of the Otherworld. They would gather at the shoreline, their white robes reflecting the purple and gold of the sky. They would cast 9 hazelnuts into the water, one for each of the 9 muses of the sacred well. As the ripples spread, they would watch for the shimmer, the moment when the reflection of the physical trees seemed to move independently of the trees themselves. This was the signal that the veil was open. They believed that in this moment, a person could walk across the water as if it were solid ground, stepping directly into the land of the shallows. This was not a physical movement, but a shift in consciousness, a crossing of the mind. They taught that the Otherworld is not somewhere else, but right here, vibrating at a different frequency. To cross the veil, you do not need to travel miles. You only need to change your rhythm. The Druids' magic was the art of the perceptual shift, the ability to see the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. They saw the sparkle on the water not as a reflection of the sun, but as the scales of the great dragon of the world, stirring in its sleep. The final element of their magic was the silence. After all the chanting, the fire lighting, and the star mapping, the Druid always returned to the silence. They believed that the loudest voice in the universe is the one that makes no sound. They called it the voice of the void, the source from which all the elements emerge. They taught that if you can find the silence within yourself, you can hear the heartbeat of the cosmos. They would spend days in complete stillness, becoming as quiet as the stones and as transparent as the air. In this state, they realized that they were not druids or men or teachers, but simply parts of a single, infinite consciousness. This was the ultimate mastery, the realization that the seeker and the path are one. The whispering elements have led us to the very brink of the known. We have seen the magic of the breath and the flame, the memory of the water and the energy of the earth. We have heard the songs of the birds and the music of the stars. But the forest is fading now. The colors are becoming too bright, the air too sweet, and the silence too deep. The green veil is no longer a mystery, it is a gateway. We can see the lights of Tir na Nog flickering through the mist. We can hear the harps of the Sidhi calling us home. The second part of our journey is complete. The elements have done their work. They have prepared our souls for the crossing. The veil is parting. Take one last breath of the mortal air, for the next world is waiting. As we prepare for the final transition into the mysteries of the Otherworld, we must look at the Druids' understanding of the silver branch. In Celtic mythology, the silver branch was a magical artifact brought from the land of promise. It was a branch of an apple tree that bore white blossoms and golden fruit, and when shaken, The silver bells hanging from it would play a music so beautiful that it would heal all wounds and bring a profound, divine sleep. To the Druid, the silver branch was the ultimate symbol of the bridge. It represented the ability to bring the beauty and peace of the Otherworld back into the realm of men. They taught that every person can find their own silver branch. It is found in the moments of selfless love, in the creation of art, and in the quiet appreciation of a sunset. It is the otherworldly spark that we all carry within us. The Druid's life was dedicated to protecting this spark, ensuring that the cold winds of materialism and greed did not extinguish it. They saw themselves as the gardeners of the silver branch, cultivating the seeds of the divine in the hearts of their people. They believed that a society that forgets its connection to the otherworld is a society that is slowly dying. Their rituals and stories were the water that kept the branch alive, ensuring that the bridge between the worlds remained open for all who sought it. This bridge was most visible during the time between times. The Druids were fascinated by the liminal spaces, the dawn and the dusk, the shoreline where the sea meets the land, the ford of a river, and the 12 days of midwinter when the sun seems to stand still. They believed that in these moments and places, the rules of the physical world are suspended. They performed their most powerful divinations at the meeting of the three waters, where three rivers joined into one, believing that the turbulence of the merging currents created a vortex of potential where the future could be seen. They taught that if you want to change your life, you must go to the edge. You must stand in the between and wait for the spirit to move. They spoke of the immortal memory, the idea that our souls remember the otherworld even when we are trapped in the flesh. This is why we feel a strange longing when we hear a certain piece of music or see a particular light in the trees. It is the soul remembering its true home. The Druid's path was a path of remembrance. They did not seek to teach people something new. They sought to help them remember what they had forgotten. They saw the human life as a long journey home, a winding road that leads through the forest of the elements and finally back to the source of all things. The mist is now a brilliant, shimmering silver. The trees of the forest have become tall, translucent pillars of light. The sound of the wind has turned into a chorus of voices, singing a language that we suddenly understand with our hearts, if not our minds. The elements have led us as far as they can go. They are the guardians of the threshold, and they are now stepping aside to let us pass. We have mastered the root and the stone, and we have listened to the whispering elements. The foundation is solid, and the spirit is soaring. The green veil is no longer before us. It is behind us. We are stepping into the light of the otherworld. The third part of our journey, the crossing to the land of the young, is about to begin. The silence is complete. The journey continues. We have stood at the edge of the grove, feeling the wind turn to music and the mist turn to light. Now, we take that final step. The green veil does not just part, it dissolves, revealing a reality so vibrant, so luminous, that the physical world we left behind feels like a half-remembered dream. This is the beginning of our journey beyond the veil, into the heart of the Celtic Otherworld. This is the realm known by many names: Tir na Nog, the land of the young; Magmel, the plain of delight; and Avalon, the Isle of Apples. It is a place where time is not a master, but a guest, and where the soul finally recognizes the home it has been longing for since the moment of its birth. As you step through the shimmering curtain, the first thing you notice is the light. It is not the light of the sun, which casts shadows and burns with heat. This is a pervasive, pearlescent glow that seems to emanate from every blade of grass, every petal of the impossible flowers, and every grain of the silver sand. There are no shadows here, for everything is filled with its own internal radiance. The air is sweet, carrying the scent of 1,000 springs at once, the smell of blooming hawthorn, the salt of a gentle sea, and the honeyed warmth of ancient mead. Your body feels light, as if the weight of the years and the burdens of the mortal world have been stripped away, leaving only the pure, essential core of your being. You are no longer walking on the earth. You are walking on the memory of the earth, perfected and made eternal. In this realm, the laws of the physical world are mere suggestions. You see trees with branches made of silver, bearing fruit of solid gold that glows with a soft, inviting light. These are the trees of the land of promise, where one bite of the fruit provides all the knowledge of the universe and the peace of 1,000 years. You hear the sound of bells, clear and melodic, hanging from the branches. This is the music of the Sidhi, the people of the mounds, the ancient gods who retreated from the world of men to dwell in this hidden paradise. They are the Tuatha De Danann, the tribe of the goddess Danu, a race of beings so beautiful and so powerful that they can only be perceived by the heart. They move through the landscape like flickers of light. Their voice is a harmony that blends perfectly with the rustle of the leaves and the singing of the silver streams. As you wander further into this luminous landscape, you come across the feast of Goibniu. In the Otherworld, no one ever knows hunger or thirst. There is a magical cauldron, the Cauldron of Abundance, which provides a feast that never ends and a drink that grants immortality to all who partake. You see the heroes of old, the kings and queens of legend, sitting together in a hall made of crystal and starlight. There is no conflict here, no rivalry, and no sorrow. They spend their days in a state of eternal present, sharing stories of their lives in the mortal world as if they were pleasant fables told around a fire. For them, the struggles of the past are merely the seasoning that makes the peace of the present taste even sweeter. They have reached the end of the long journey, and they welcome you with a silence that is more inclusive than any word. We must also speak of the birds of Rhiannon. As you sit by the edge of a lake that is as clear as a mirror, 3 birds with plumage of gold and emerald land on the silver branches above you. Their song is the most beautiful sound in all the realms. It is said that the birds of Rhiannon can sing the living to sleep and wake the dead to life. As you listen, you feel a profound sense of Suantrai, the sacred sleep of the spirit. The music does not just enter your ears, it flows through your veins, calming every nerve and smoothing every jagged thought. It is the sound of the universe at peace with itself. Under the influence of this song, you realize that time has stopped. Days, years, and centuries could pass in the world of men, and for you, it would be but a single, blissful heartbeat. This is the grace of the Otherworld, the gift of a peace that transcends all understanding. But the Otherworld is not just a place of rest. It is a place of profound transformation. You encounter the Well of Sagais, the source of all wisdom, surrounded by 9 ancient hazel trees. The nuts of these trees, filled with the essence of the divine, fall into the water where they are eaten by the salmon of wisdom. To drink from this well, or to eat of the salmon, is to have the eye of the soul opened. You see the connections between all things, the way a single thought in the heart of a child can move the furthest star. You understand the language of the elements we explored before, no longer as whispers, but as a clear, triumphant symphony. You realize that you are not a visitor in this realm. You are a part of it. You have always been a part of it. The veil was never a wall. It was a blindfold that you have finally chosen to remove. The inhabitants of this realm, the Sidhi, do not see themselves as separate from the landscape. They are the forest, they are the light, and they are the silence. They are the guardians of the immortal memory, the collective consciousness of the Celtic soul. They teach that the purpose of human life is to gather experiences, like a bee gathering nectar, and to bring them back to this central hive of wisdom. Every joy you felt, every tear you shed, and every act of courage you performed in the mortal world is a thread in the great tapestry they are weaving. They see the beauty in your struggle and the light in your darkness. In their eyes, you are a hero simply for having had the courage to live. As we move deeper into part 3, we encounter the legend of Oisin and Niamh. Oisin, the great poet and warrior, was lured to Tir na Nog by Niamh of the golden hair, who came to him on a white horse that could walk across the waves. He stayed in the land of the young for what felt like 3 years, living a life of endless beauty and joy. But the pull of the mortal world, the longing of the root, eventually called him back. When he returned to Ireland, he found that 300 years had passed. His friends were dust, his halls were ruins, and a new religion had begun to overwrite the old ways. This story is a reminder of the cost of the veil. To touch the divine is to be forever changed, to become a stranger in one's own land. But Oisin brought back something more precious than gold. He brought back the stories. He was the bridge that allowed the wisdom of the Otherworld to survive the coming of the shadows. We are now walking the very path that Oisin walked. We are seeing the light he saw and hearing the music that called to his soul. The journey beyond the veil is not a journey to a distant land, but a journey to the deepest part of ourselves. It is the realization that we are eternal beings, temporarily wearing the clothes of the flesh. The Siddhi are not other. They are our own potential, realized and radiant. As the silver mist of Tir na Nog swirls around your feet, you feel a sense of homecoming that is so deep it can only be expressed in silence. You have crossed the sea of the elements and stood on the solid ground of the spirit. The land of the young is not a destination, it is a state of being. And in this state, there is no fear, no loss, and no end. There is only the light, the music, and the infinite peace of the soul. Moving further into the mysteries of the Otherworld, we must explore the Isles of the Blessed and the Celestial Gardens. The Otherworld is not a single location, but an archipelago of consciousness. Beyond the main shores of Tir na Nog lie countless islands, each representing a different quality of the soul. There is the island of the silver apple tree, where the air is filled with the scent of eternal harvest and the sound of distant harps. There is the island of joy, where the laughter of the inhabitants is so infectious that it can heal the deepest trauma of a mortal heart. And there is the island of the four pillars, where the very structure of reality is visible as towers of glowing light, supporting the weight of the heavens. The Druids taught that after death, or during deep initiation, the soul travels between these islands, learning the lessons of each until it is ready to return to the source. On these islands, you encounter the guardians of the threshold. These are not terrifying monsters, but beings of immense wisdom who test the purity of your intent. They ask not what you have done, but what you have become. They look into the mirror of the soul, a pool of still water that reflects not your physical face, but the light you have gathered during your lifetime. If your light is clear, the path opens. If there are shadows, they offer the waters of Lethe, the water of forgetfulness, to wash away the pain and the regret of the past, allowing you to start anew. In the Otherworld, there is no judgment, only the opportunity for refinement. It is the ultimate healing chamber for the human spirit. You see the chariots of the sun parked in the meadows of starlight, and you hear the trumpets of the dawn calling the spirits to their daily work of sustaining the universe. The Siddhi do not just live in paradise. They create it through their thoughts and their songs. They are the gardeners of the cosmos, ensuring that the beauty of the otherworld continues to flow into the physical realm, however faintly. They are the source of every moment of inspiration, every sudden realization of beauty, and every act of selfless love. They are the whisperers in the dark, reminding us that even in our darkest hours, the light of Tir Na Nog is only a heartbeat away. As we linger in the gardens of Avalon, we see the grail of the heart, a symbol of the ultimate fulfillment of the human quest. It is not a physical cup, but a state of total openness to the divine. Those who reach this state are said to become beings of light, capable of moving between the worlds at will. They are the true masters of the green veil. They show us that the goal of the Druid's path is not to escape the world, but to transform it. By bringing the light of the otherworld into the darkness of the physical realm, they become the living bridges that sustain the hope of humanity. The journey is long, and the path is narrow, but the destination is glorious beyond all imagining. We now enter the halls of the ancestors and the sacred memory of the soul. In the deepest part of the otherworld, there is a place where all the stories ever told are kept. It is a library not of books, but of experiences. You see the threads of fate being woven into a great, shimmering web that spans the entire universe. Every life is a thread, and every thread is essential to the whole. You see your own thread, glowing with a soft, unique color, and you see how it is connected to the threads of everyone you have ever known. You realize that there are no coincidences, only the intricate patterns of the great weaver. You feel a profound sense of belonging, knowing that your life has purpose and that your story is being recorded in the immortal memory of the divine. You meet the spirits of your ancestors, not as they were in life, but as they are now, healed, radiant, and filled with wisdom. They welcome you with a love that is unconditional and a peace that is absolute. They share with you the secrets of the blood, the ancient knowledge that has been passed down through your lineage for generations. They tell you that you are the crown of the tree, the culmination of thousands of years of human experience. You carry their strengths, their dreams, and their light within you. They are your celestial root, providing you with the spiritual nourishment you need to grow and flourish in the world. As you sit among the ancestors, you understand the true meaning of the eternal circle. You see that life and death are not opposites, but two sides of the same coin. You see that the soul is like a traveler, moving between the worlds to gain wisdom and experience. You realize that you have been here before, and you will be here again. The fear of death disappears, replaced by a deep, abiding trust in the rhythm of the universe. You feel a sense of cosmic yuvin, cosmic trust, the knowledge that everything is exactly as it should be, and that you are exactly where you are meant to be. The air in the halls of the ancestors is filled with the music of the spheres, the underlying vibration of the cosmos. It is a sound that is both incredibly powerful and incredibly gentle. It is the sound of the universe singing itself into existence. As you listen, you feel your own internal elements, the air, the fire, the water, and the earth, coming into perfect alignment. You are no longer a fragmented being. You are a whole, integrated expression of the divine. You have reached this still point at the center of the turning world. You are the oak, the stone, the element, and the spirit. You are the path. Now we transition into the visions of the future and the responsibility of the initiate. To have crossed the veil is to have received a great gift, but it is also to have accepted a great responsibility. The cities show you visions of the world to come, the potential futures that depend on the choices we make today. They show you a world where the forests are restored, where the waters are pure, and where humanity lives in harmony with the natural world. But they also show you the shadows, the potential for destruction and chaos if we continue to ignore the whispers of the elements and the wisdom of the ancestors. They tell you that you are a seed bearer, an individual who has been given the seeds of the otherworld to plant in the soil of the mortal realm. Your task, as you return from the land of the young, is to be a guardian of the light. You must bring the peace, the beauty, and the wisdom you have found here back into your daily life. You must speak the words of the Siddhi, sing the songs of the bards, and walk the path of the Druids. You must be the voice for the voiceless, the trees, the animals, and the earth itself. You must show others that the veil is thin and that the otherworld is accessible to all who seek it with a sincere heart. You are no longer just a person. You are an ambassador of Tir Na Nog. They give you a sacred token, a piece of the silver branch, a glowing ember from the celestial fire, or a drop of water from the well of wisdom. This token is not a physical object, but a spiritual resonance that you will carry within you. It will act as a beacon in the dark, guiding you through the challenges of the mortal world and reminding you of the truth you have found here. Whenever you feel lost or overwhelmed, you need only go into the silence and touch this token, and the peace of the otherworld will return to you. As you prepare to depart from the land of the young, the Siddhi gather to bid you farewell. They do not say goodbye, for they know that there is no true separation. They say until the next turning of the wheel. They remind you that they are always with you, in the rustle of the leaves, the sparkle on the water, and the silence of the night. They tell you that the path is always open, and that you are always welcome to return. You take a final look at the luminous landscape, the silver trees, and the pearlescent sky. You feel a deep, abiding gratitude for the journey you have taken and the wisdom you have gained. You are ready to return, for you know that you are bringing the otherworld with you. Now we explore the return journey and the integration of the mysteries. The return from the otherworld is a process of slow descent. As you step back through the shimmering veil, the colors of Tir Na Nog begin to fade, replaced by the more muted tones of the mortal forest. The air becomes heavier and the weight of the body returns. But the light within you does not fade. You feel a sense of internal radiance that permeates every cell of your being. You are the same person, but you are also fundamentally different. You have seen the truth behind the illusion, and you can never go back to seeing the world in the same way again. You walk through the sacred grove of the Part 1, but now you see it with new eyes. You see the spirits of the trees, the energy of the stones, and the presence of the ancestors in every shadow. You hear the whispers of the elements with a clarity you never had before. You understand that the physical world is a sacred mirror, reflecting the beauty and the complexity of the divine. You realize that your daily life is a ritual, and every action is an opportunity to honor the sacred. You are a living prayer, a conduit through which the grace of the otherworld can flow into the world of men. You encounter the challenges of the mortal world, the noise, the hurry, and the forgetfulness of society, but you remain centered in the light. You do not let the chaos disturb your inner peace. You use the tools you have gained, the breath, the silence, and the token of the spirit to maintain your alignment. You become a pillar of stability for those around you, a source of calm and wisdom in a turbulent world. People are drawn to your light, even if they don't understand where it comes from. You are the silent teacher, showing the way through your presence and your actions. You begin to plant the seeds you were given. You tell the stories of the otherworld to those who are ready to hear them. You create art that reflects the beauty of Avalon. You practice acts of kindness that embody the love of the ancestors. You become a steward of the land, protecting the sacred spaces and honoring the spirits of the place. You realize that your life is your great work, the unique contribution you make to the ongoing story of the universe. You are a master of the green veil, living at the intersection of the worlds and holding the balance with a steady heart. As the moon rises over the ancient hills, you stand once more by the standing stones. You look up at the stars and see the path of the white cow stretching across the sky. You know that you are a part of that cosmic road, a traveler who has seen the destination and returned to tell the tale. You feel the deep, abiding sense of peace, knowing that the journey is eternal and the destination is always within you. You are the Druid, the poet, the seeker, and the homecomer. The veil is thin, the light is bright, and the story continues. The third part of our journey, the crossing beyond the veil, is complete, but the path is a circle, and every end is a new beginning. We stand now at the final threshold of this chapter. The land of the young has shared its secrets, the ancestors have whispered their wisdom, and the soul has found its resonance. We have learned that beyond the veil is not a distance measured in miles, but a state measured in heartbeats. It is the recognition that the magic we seek is not hidden in some far-off realm, but is the very fabric of our existence. Every moment is a doorway, every breath is a crossing, and every dream is a glimpse into our true nature. As you drift now into the deepest layers of this story, let the light of Tir na Nog be the glow that guides your dreams. Let the music of Rhiannon's birds be the lullaby that stills your mind. You are safe. You are home. You are eternal. The journey of the Druid's path has led you back to yourself. And there, in the silence of your own heart, the Otherworld remains. The veil is open, the light is won, and you are finally, peacefully, at rest.